Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is David, this is David K Reacts, and this is a rather unusual video. If you haven't been to my channel before, usually I cover music videos, but I have been looking to branch out into other fields. I've experimented with a couple of videos before, but I haven't done something quite like this. Today I'm going to be reacting to the short film Guardsman. This is a Warhammer 40,000 fan film put out by Richard Boylan. I say reacting to, I'm not technically reacting to this, I'm analysing it. I have seen it before, although I haven't watched it for a long time, so I'm going to record a reaction. But it's kind of a re-reaction of me seeing it for the first time in probably 2 or 3 years. This came out in October 2018 and stunned the Warhammer 40,000 fandom, because for all its attempts, Games Workshop, to the best of my knowledge, has never been able to put out a piece of media that is as high quality and as adherent to their own lore as this one. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me and let me know. Now, audiobooks and things like that, I guess, are different. I should say visual media. The Space Marine video game came very close, but I actually think this is maybe the most legit piece of Warhammer 40,000 visual media I've ever seen. This is a short film. It's a matter of minutes, so it's not super long. I'll be able to look at the whole thing. And as I say, I've seen it before, but I am going to analyze it because there's a lot of very cool stuff at play here. And I do want to kind of pay some tribute to how outrageously good this actually is. I will have put this at the beginning as well, but I do want to give a content warning for this video. There is going to be science fiction violence, guns, and a small amount of gore. Not really, just a bad leg injury. So just wanted to give fair warning to anybody who might find those things distasteful. And yeah, I could talk for about 5 hours and not get anywhere near digging into the full lore that goes into what's behind this video. The Warhammer universe has been constructed for decades and is a complicated and interweaving thing that is constantly evolving. I say Warhammer, this is Warhammer 40,000. For those who don't know, who haven't come across it, these are tabletop games where you take on your opponent with an army of miniatures. And there are so many facets of this hobby, collecting the armies in the first place. Even just I used to design armies. I'd get the rule books that had all the points. You'd have like a 2,000 point army, and I would sit there and just have fun putting together cool armies. It was just a math puzzle, and but also a creativity and a design puzzle of how can I make something really cool out of this. You could paint the painting level of many people out there is astonishing. I have several friends who are ridiculously good painters. And then there's the actual tabletop game itself, where your army takes on your opponent's army, and there's lots of dice and rulers and measuring devices and all-out chaos and lots of fun. I used to be big into the hobby when I was younger. I couldn't afford to keep it up amongst all the other things I wanted to do, but I have a huge appreciation for the lore. And a couple of my favorite books actually have been written based in this lore. There's a series by Dan Abnett, the Eisenhorn trilogy, which is just astonishing. It's wonderful work, and I really like that. And several other bits and pieces. I won't go into all of that, but suffice it to say, there's a lot going on here. I'm going to give a quick intro to the key things that are necessary so that those who are watching this who have no idea what I'm talking about can at least understand what's going on in this video. There are 3 types of character that you will meet during the course of this. This will have slight spoilers, by the way, so if you want to see, if you haven't seen, rather, the video, check the description down below. I will have linked to it. Please go and watch it. It's wonderful. You will see it in a second with my reaction, but you should see it without that first, because it's just so well put together, and I know what's coming, so it's possible that my reaction will give some of that away. If you've done that, welcome back. Here we go. So I think that's about everything I have to say, so I'm just going to say welcome back to the channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. If it is, the way that I work usually is I will watch a video from beginning to end, non-stop, reacting and commenting over the top. I am going to do that, but it won't be a true reaction this time because, as I've said multiple times, this is a video I have seen before. Afterwards, I watch it through again from beginning to end, but this time pausing, interrupting, and offering what commentary and analysis I feel I can, based on what I've just seen and heard, and the foreknowledge of having watched it once before. Please do like the video, hit the subscribe button, use the notification bell to decide how often YouTube tells you I'm posting, and if you'd care to support the channel, you can do so on a one-off basis by heading to buymeacoffee.com/DavidKReacts, or on a more ongoing basis by heading to patreon.com/DavidKReacts, where you can sign on for $2 Canadian, which, besides just supporting the channel, also gives you access to my Discord, and there's some cool folks in there already, and you'll also get sneak peeks of what I'm going to be releasing, because I post the thumbnail up there once YouTube has accepted the video. I think that's everything. I'll talk more about this afterwards, so without any further delay, here is Richard Boylan's 2018 film, Guardsman. And it starts with this. It's a fan work, is unofficial, and is in no way endorsed by Games Workshop. I love that title. It's just really cool.
Rains. Guardsman Rains. Where in all the hells are you?
I love that we get the introduction to him as he introduces himself to where he is. He's obviously fallen through something, or something blew up nearby. The lighting and the shadow in this is stunning. As is the sound design. I'd forgotten how good the costumes are. Oh, the cinematography in this is phenomenal. And the atmosphere, the lack of music, but the atmosphere is... oh.
Xena scum.
And of course their weapons are cheap. So they jam a lot.
Oh God, Emperor. Overseer of makes things all right. Whose power none can resist.
So effective. I love this.
Grant me the strength to defeat thy enemies. Grant me the will to defeat the beast. From your grace.
I shall know no fear.
Oh, what an introduction. Just incredible. Oh, oh. So short, but so impactful.
Take up your weapon, Guardsman.
The Emperor protects.
Oh! It's just so good. It really, really is. And I love this piece of music. It's so... like, there's so much in this. And it wasn't really even in the short. I mean, yes, it was a bit. It's so striking. That's 4.5 minutes, including all the credits and the disclaimer at the beginning. And so much happens. I realized there was one thing. Now, this may or may not make sense. If I may have decided to move some lore description to here, if I did, it's going to happen now. The 3 characters we will meet. First of all, a guardsman, the titular guardsman. The Imperial Guard are the cannon fodder rank and file troops of the Imperium. The Imperium is a galactic entity, and the Imperial Guard are raised on worlds all over the place, trained as best as is possible for a conscript army, essentially. And they are cannon fodder. They are equipped with armor that stands up to the most basic troops of opposing armies, and not much more than that. Their weapons are weak. And they're squishy humans in a world full of super beings and aliens and magic, magic equivalent, psychic powers, things like that. So they are the rank and file, and the Guardsman Reigns, is our protagonist. Then there are the Tyranids. They are the antagonist of this particular short, and one of the biggest antagonists in the universe. They are a purely alien hive mind race. And they're full of, like, goopy acid weapons and claws and clubs, and they're all organic and terrifying. And if you have an army of them, you probably have more models on the table than anybody else, because they're really cheap and really, really rubbish, and you just swarm people. And they're scary. They're the big alien dudes. And one of the great things about this short is how they're done. And then finally you have the Space Marines. The Space Marines are genetically modified humans. They have a crazy amount of things done to them to turn them into these awesome, gigantic entities that most people in the Imperium will never see. And if you do, it's either a very good thing because they're coming to save the day, or it's a very bad thing because you've been really bad and they're coming after you. There are also Chaos Space Marines who have been warped and turned against the good guys, essentially. And that's a whole other thing, but we don't need to worry about those. The conflicts that go on, the Imperial Guard and the Space Marines are, of course, on the same side. The Space Marines are like the super good guys. And so that is the conflict that is set up here, is between the Tyranids and the Space Marines. Hopefully that makes some degree of sense to people who haven't seen this before. I may throw this after the reaction just because that ran a little long. And if so, then I hope you enjoyed it. An analysis coming up. Yeah, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And that covers the lore that is necessary for this. Whether or not that just happened, there's one thing I forgot to mention, which is the God Emperor. In this universe, this is the 41st millennium, incidentally. So we're way off in the future. In this universe, there is the God Emperor of mankind, who sits enshrined in a golden throne that keeps him in some torporic state of being alive. And he is the being that the Imperium worships, essentially. He watches over all of mankind from this golden throne, and many things are done in his name, but also, people pray to him. And so that was the sort of reference of that prayer that the Guardsman uttered in the middle of all of this. With that, hopefully everything made sense. If there's anything I missed, do let me know in the comments, and I will explain any lore that I missed. There are a couple of things I'm also going to go through during my analysis, but I'm so glad I chose to do this. I had forgotten how outrageously good this is. Okay, I'm just going to skip the disclaimer. We're going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to watch it again and tease it apart and see what I can't bring out to tell you about. I love what Richard's chosen to do with these titles. Like, you get this glitchiness, but also the start of this atmosphere, this sound that's building up already. It's a little bit kind of unnerving because you don't really know what's going on, and then it adds in this really high-pitched kind of noise on top. Oh, spacebar. And the way it comes on like that, it's almost like tinnitus creeping in. It's really effective.
Rains. Guardsman Rains. Where in all the hells are you?
And I love that we start out just with the audio. He's been knocked out, whether he fell or something blew up nearby, whatever happened, but he's out of it. And so, it's seems appropriate that we discover his surroundings with him. So therefore we start out with blackness, because that's what he's seeing right now. And as we get there, you get this addition of, and it's interesting, I'm not sure if there's some sort of falling masonry in there, or if that's all gunfire, but you kind of get this additional sound creeping in right before we focus in on him, or rather, the close-up on his eye. And he's still not with it yet, but he's coming too. So we're starting to get... Notice how this first shot, we have him. He's aware of himself, but we're not aware of the surroundings because he isn't. So all we see is him and a very narrow perspective on who he is. This is such a powerful opening shot. And I love how you can see, obviously he's either had an injury or has been fighting. You can see the red around his forehead there just a little bit. I like the fact that they've made this, pretty PG. There's not really... they could have gone a very different way with it, and this makes it more accessible. I'd love to see a full-on Warhammer movie at some point in time. That's kind of what this franchise does, but it does it in its lore. It doesn't really do it in its presentation. There's some grim artwork out there, but it's always kind of accessible. It's never really gone over the top, and I appreciate that because I think they target youth as much as they target adults, and this allows them to do that. Now this is a very important point here. You can just see here, you've got this, there's obviously all these reflections, the flashing lights that are above him, which I assume therefore he's fallen somewhere, or that's the idea. But you notice his iris is purple. That is the level of detail they have gone into with this is crazy. I don't know military structure, so I can't sit here and say... he's a guardsman, so he's low rank. I can't remember how all of their patches, you'll see he's got the number 14 on one of his pauldrons. I can't remember what that signifies specifically. What I do know is some of the more esoteric lore. And purple eyes, there's a planet in the Imperium called Cadia, which is a very, very dangerous place to be. A lot of the evil in this universe comes from the 4 Chaos Gods, which are 4 malevolent entities who live in the warp, which is how interstellar travel happens in this world. And you basically enter a wormhole into like the nightmare dimension and do your best to survive and come out the other end. There is a giant permanently open gateway into this dimension right next to Cadia. So it's a very key planet in the lore. And true, continued generation Cadians have purple eyes. That's a mark of those who are born of Cadian stock, and so he is a true Cadian guardsman, which I just think is really, really cool. It's a small touch, but it gives him an identity to those who know the lore immediately.
I'm here, sir.
I love that we get this flicker. We just see him lying on the floor with the masonry around him, and then we cut right back to his face again. He's still not fully aware, so we're still not fully aware. It's all about his consciousness of what's around him, and it's such a smart perspective because it enables awe and wonder to be a part of this, and to be a diegetic part of it, which means it's something that's diegetic is in scene. It exists. If music is diegetic, it's playing from a radio or a guitar or whatever, or someone singing in the scene. If it's non-diegetic, it's your average orchestral score. So the music in this is non-diegetic because there isn't an orchestra there blaring brass sounds when the Space Marine walks in. But the wonder is because he's experiencing the horror of the Tyranids and the wonder of the Space Marine coming in, and so we get it with him. Brilliant stuff. And it's a great way to find him too. What's so smart about this? The lighting in this is astonishing. And I'm going to talk about shadow in a bit, but I'm going to talk about lighting right now. The fact that we just have this circle of light, it enables them to do so much with so little. There's no set here. There's a concrete floor with rocks on it, and the las gun, or laser gun, depending on how you choose to pronounce it, next to him. That's it. And then it's just him lying on the floor. And we don't need... Oh, and a piece of paper, I guess. We don't need much more than that. Because this, you can tell from the fact that he's injured and, struggling to regain his consciousness and clearly in a state of disarray, that something has either blown up or he's fallen through the floor. That's all we need to know. I also like that they don't linger on the injury. They set up exactly what we need. The efficiency of this video, I think, is commendable as well. They set up exactly what we need to know that he can't fight effectively. This is going to be whatever's about to happen is going to be a losing battle for him because he's injured and not really able to properly take care of himself. Great stuff. And of course he called out, he yelled, and so he's attracted the Tyranids to him, and we start hearing this clicking. And it makes a great deal of sense. What noise do Tyranids make? Well, they're insectoid, largely, and so it makes sense that they'd be clicks and sounds like that. And he's right. I love that we haven't really seen it. We haven't seen that kind of jerk motion of him tying the tourniquet, and yet now he's paused because now he's in trouble. And this would be, presumably he's aware that he's fighting Tyranids. So anything is trouble. And there, again, the lighting. Oh my goodness, the lighting in this. Spacebar. I love that we get that. We keep getting this flickering. And I think it's interesting. It gives us a degree of uncertainty in terms of what we're doing. We light him up, and it's a little bit more hopeful. And a split second later, we cut it away, and it flickers between the two. And then we settle on darkness, which could be a bad omen for him. And to be honest, as he stands right now, it is. It's really great. And yet you still have this sort of key light coming down from the top that's just making sure we're always aware of what's going on. It's just beautifully filmed. And then we see what precisely, right? This is where I want to talk about shadow. One, I think that's a really nice use of focus there as we come in behind him. We focused in on him, and there's the zoom as we focus over here. And we focus on something we can't even see. And this, I think, is so... I've no idea what the budget for this movie is. I've never seen any of Richard's other work, which it occurs to me is a failure on my part. I really need to check more of it out because this is stunning. But I don't know what his budget would have been like. But if you don't have, Disney's budget or Marvel's budget or Warner Brothers' budget to make this thing look outstanding and as detailed as a human being, hide it. But hide it well. And this technique gets used badly a lot of the time, and you get jump cuts and strobe lighting and no sense that there is a lurking horror out there because you can't see what's going on. Here, we're holding on this. We can see there's something there. We can see things flailing around, and it gives us a sense of horror. The only issue here is if this were real, that Tyranid would have charged him and this would be all over. But of course that's not the plot, so it makes complete sense. But I think what we have here, unless I'm very much mistaken, is a Hormagaunt, which is a very specific type of Tyranid. they extremely fast and gribbly, and they have 2 huge claws that they attack with as they charge at you, and so they use these claws as weapons. And I think that's what is kind of waving around there. Yeah, one of them, they have no ranged weaponry, so they are useless until they get you, and when they get you, it's like you just met the thing, like you're done. And I think that the fact that they've hidden it, and yet we can just decipher what it is genius. Absolute genius. I like that we get a little bit more of information here. So things we can see here. One, we're still seeing things from his perspective. We know what he's seeing now. We know he's seeing that faded, dark image. But we're seeing him in a wider sense. And what I think he's gaining his understanding of where he is. So we can see in the background, here's a recruiting poster, which... My light's in the way there. I can't read the top of that to see what it says. But we have the Imperial Eagle, which is the icon of the Imperium as a whole. And then obviously this is a recruitment poster. And so he's starting to get a vibe of where he is. That's probably what the flyer is that's on the floor behind him as well. And so we start to see more of it. And now there's light, but the light is in a really unhelpful place. And so we get this breadth expansion as we see more and more of the scene. But the bit that is lit up isn't the bit that he could really do with being able to see into right now, which is so smart. And again, this motion, the control in this is wonderful. Like this very slow pickup of the gun before he turns it around. Again, quick movement and he'd be done for at this point in time. It's probably because he's on the ground and not moving very much that the Hormagaunts aren't attacking. I love all these sirens going off in the background. It just gives you a sense that there's more happening out there than we're seeing right now. It expands the world. Also, this lasgun prop is fantastic. I love just the amount of dust and wear that's on it. You just get a sense that, you know, this is a used thing. But also, you know, not the greatest quality. And we get just a single shot that... I don't know if I could find the frame. It's going to be very difficult to do. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to capture it. But just for a nanosecond, we can see slightly clearer. I love the use of flare that we were seeing as I was scrolling through there. It's great. And he's now antagonized this thing and confirmed, yeah, this is the dangerous thing that I thought it was. But it's still in shadow. And... you get this exploratory motion where, you know, he isn't sure, and so it makes complete sense that he'd just take a single pot shot and see what's what. And that is what we call a spray and pray. Which is pretty much all those things are worth. And I love here the sound design is so good. The lighting design's great too. This use of the red light and things like that. But the sound design is what I really think is great here, because this thing kind of sounds weedy. And I think that's the thing. It doesn't have punch to it. It's lasers. It wouldn't do. But it doesn't sound like something that's going to be super effective, especially when compared to what's coming in a minute. And so you get the sense there's all these shots going out and they're ineffective. They're clearly not solving the problem that he's got at the moment. And so it serves to weaken him and increase the hopelessness so much more. And just for a second there, we see it closer up. And yes, I'm 100% certain you can see the arm coming up here with this little talon ending in this long, razor-sharp, scythe-like claw, the jaw and the eye. And it's great because we're seeing just enough. We don't need to see more than that to understand the threat. And the light now, we get to see little bits of light coming onto him, shining off the pauldron, shining off the the sort of the non-coated parts of the lasgun. Very, very cool. And right here, he's thinking, I can manage this. I think I can get this.
Xenos scum.
Xenos being a catch-all term for aliens, basically, in this world. And then the inevitable happens and his gun gives out. And I think there's something about the way that this has been framed. His angles of him, the person, are off. The camera, you can see this is almost horizontal. It's framed beautifully square, and the thing that isn't is him. You know, the angles of the building are right. The floor, the walls, the ceilings, or the tops of the windows at any rate. His angles are wrong. And now we have all this light coming from behind him, which is kind of cool, because that's where salvation is going to come. Or I say behind him, it's shining on his back. We don't see his face. We see the light behind him, the darkness in front, because there's a Space Marine that way, and there's a Hormagaunt that way. Very, very effective. And now you're in trouble. And now you're really in trouble, because there's 3 of them.
Oh God, Emperor.
This drone we've got going on in the background, it's barely music. It's a continuation of that atmospheric sound that we had earlier, but it's creeping in the background, and it's so ominous. It's really, really effective.
Overseer makes things all right. Whose power none can resist.
Again, light and darkness, the flash of the silver as he takes the knife out, and now we can't see that flash anymore. We don't see the metal, we just see he's holding something. So effective. And the Steadicam work, actually, too. The fact that it's handheld, there's a lot of movement in it, it keeps us on edge. It's not a locked-off shot focusing in, it's wobbling around a bunch.
Grant me the strength to defeat thy enemies. Grant me the will to defeat the beast. From your grace.
And notice right there, it's so slight, but for a half a second, the sound fades before we hear the voice coming from behind him. So cool. Just listen again.
From your grace.
I shall know no fear.
And everything's just a little more muted after that, because we've heard this voice, and I love the post-processing that's on the voice there. They're speaking through this kind of rebreather mask that's on their helmet. He's fully enclosed in that helmet. Those suits are, they're fully closed in. There's not like this armor where it's like fabric that you've put metal on top of. He's locked into this armor, the Space Marine, that is. And to have that voice distorted and kind of, I shall know no fear. Like there's a bit of growl in it, but some of that is probably the original voice, but then they have this sort of robotic post-processing over the top that makes it sound like it's being processed through a vocal unit. So good. And that, of all things, as well, I shall know no fear. What a wonderful statement for an entry. And then he turns around and we get this is the wonder that I was talking about. We've had the fear and the resignation, and now we get the wonder. And note, he's turned into the light. Now he's lit more than he was before. Five whole steps before we have the faintest idea of what's going on. If you know the lore, you know what's coming. You understand the metallic footsteps. But you hear this... You just hear that clunk, and it almost sounds like something bad's coming for him again, especially because that voice didn't quite sound human. So if you're not sure what's coming, kind of sets it up. And even here, if you don't know what you're looking at, this is quite confusing. I know the shape of a Space Marine helmet. That's the top there that's shining. You can see the structure of it around the light that's actually down here is shining off the backpack that they have attached to their suits. But it's not an immediately recognizable shape. We see the approach, and so we still see its obscurity still. He's only just seeing it, so he's still registering what's going on here. And that crashing music, what a build. Done it again. Whoop. And it almost sounds like an engine powering up. And then we get that crashing chord coming in second. What an introduction to a character. And I love, we don't see it clearly until he's because he clearly hasn't processed what's going on, because you see that moment where he's like, oh god, get out the way, you know, giant armored behemoth coming through. And we don't see it clearly until the shot where he has to get out of the way. And I love that sense of rush that then makes him fall over again. But this time through astonishment rather than through injury and you know, presumably a fair amount of fear too. Although he got up to stand in the face of his fear. And I think that's a huge part of the respect that this Space Marine shows. I'll come back to why that is in just a second. That's incredible. This is an actual suit. There's no CG happening here. That is an actual suit worn by an actual person. The credits I'll come to at the end. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. I've reached out to ask if I can put a photograph from their social media up here. I've linked to their social media down below. So please do check it out and have a look at the work that they've done. But if I'm able to, I will put a photo up here showing this suit along with a Guardsman outfit and Terminator armor, which Terminators are even bigger Space Marines. And this guy goes to conventions and walks around in this suit. And I've not seen him in real life, but I've seen stuff on Instagram, and it's astonishing to behold. Two things right away that we see that are just such a contrast to what we've just seen previously. You see him grab one of these things out of the air and hold it at arm's length, at bay. And it is clearly unable to do anything effective. Whereas previously, you know, Guardsman Reigns had a knife out, and it's like, what are you going to do with that, buddy? That's not... Look at the size of this claw. You're not going to be particularly effective. Kudos to him for trying. And the sound of the bolt gun, or bolter, which is the weapon the Space Marine is using. These things fire self-propelled explosive rounds. Like, these things are .75 caliber. They're massive, given that we consider .5 cal massive in real life for human-carried weapons. This thing is enormous. And it sounds deadly. Like, the bang from that sounds so satisfying. That's what one of these things should sound like. Games Workshop in their own media messes that up so badly. It just sounds like these things are carrying a modern-day machine gun, which is pathetic for what they're supposed to sound like. They're described in their own books what the sound is, and then they make games and videos and things like that where they sound as weedy as the lasgun did at the beginning. But this is wonderful, and the power of those shots makes you understand the shift in dynamic. We've gone from useless weaponry against killing machine to incredibly powerful weaponry that is going to eviscerate said killing machine. Really, really effective. And he's always in light, but the shots light him up even more, so there's a sense that every time he fires, the light is returning. It's really, really impactful, and it's so effective the way that this has been realized. It's truly astonishing. And the impact from that, the thunder sound that leaves back afterwards. This is what's called a power fist in this world, which is a fist that is powered, hence the charging up of it before he lets out the punch. But the fact that he took this thing he was holding, threw it back, and then when it came back for him, he just punched it in the face. And that ends the conflict that we're dealing with in this short. It goes to show exactly how potent this thing, this armor is, and this man is that's inside the armor. And it's just so well done. I really like the special effect on the fist too, actually. Like, don't know. I think I did see how there's a wonderful behind the scenes, which I've also linked below. If you enjoy this, please check it out, because how they filmed it is astonishing. But I love the way that they've kind of got this. I think they had something wrapped around the arm, and then they've obviously added some stuff, visual effects after the fact. But I also love that it's illuminating parts of the armor we hadn't seen before. They've got this big breastplate, and then there's the little bit of the abdomen underneath before the greaves begin, and we get to see a little bit of that. And it's just the detail that's in that suit is astonishing, and so the fact that they get to show it off in so many different ways is really cool. But I love that the fist is center screen, the Space Marine's actually off screen, where the eye is drawn naturally to where this power-up is happening. And the blackout, and the fact that the thunder from that sound continues even after we come back from the blackout too. Obviously it's a minute later, it would, any sound wouldn't still be in the air, but it makes it so thunderous for us as the audience. And then you have this wonderful disparity between these two figures. One standing tall, having wiped the floor with everything in front of him, and one on the ground, lucky to have been saved, but my goodness, he put up a fight. And here's where I said I was going to come back and talk about the fact that he put up a fight. This cloaked or hooded skull with the wing emblem indicates that this is an Angel of Vengeance. The Angels of Vengeance are a particular Space Marine chapter. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of chapters. In very brief, one of the core chapters is the Dark Angels. They have green coloured armour, and they are the sort of top of the pecking order of what are known as the Unforgiven, which is a chapter that when there was a big traitorous mutiny 1,000 years ago, their chapter committed a lot of sins against the Emperor, and they are striving constantly to make good for those. There are many sub-chapters underneath, and the Angels of Vengeance are one of them. And one of the things that marks the Angels of Vengeance out is they don't give up. Ever. Like, they're very, very... They've lost huge numbers of their troops to make sure that they don't fail at something. And so I think the fact that he presumably was in the background seeing how Reigns did, and he saw him stand up to them with the lasgun, and then when that gave out, he saw him offer a prayer to the Emperor and get his knife out and just say, well, this is it, this is what we're going to do, I'm not giving up. And so in he comes to save the day, looking at somebody he respects. And a lot of the time Space Marines look down on humans in this world, but I like the fact that he doesn't here.
Take up your weapon, Guardsman.
That's such a great shot there. This sequence. This shot right here, where you just see him looking down. You get a sense these things stand, I think it's 8 feet tall. They're huge. And just him looking down. And you can't tell. It's a featureless mask, or not featureless, but like motionless mask. You can't tell what he's thinking, but I love that he's just looking down, analyzing the situation. And it's very possible he has something in his... I can't remember what the one thing I'm not sure about is I can't remember how much detail they get in their helmet of what their, is their diagnostic stuff. It's possible he's looking at him going, well, look at this wound, can he survive with that thing? Yeah, okay, he'll do all right. Get up.
Take up your weapon, Guardsman.
The Emperor...
The sound design, oh, it's so good.
Guardsman.
Not only do we get the footsteps, but listen to this, the servos in the knuckles as he flexes the fingers here.
Yeah.
It's so good. I actually wonder whether that was a planned moment or whether Terry just flexed his fingers in the suit and they decided to add a sound effect to it. I'm not sure which, but my goodness... I'm sure it was directed, actually. No, of course it was, because it's such a specific shot. But what a small detail to have that little servo sound right there. It's so unnecessary, really, but because we're focused up, the camera's really close to the gauntlet, it makes sense we'd hear it.
The Emperor protects.
Now, that's a common saying in this universe, the Emperor protects, and I love that he says it right here. Of all the times to say it, now's probably the right time, given what just happened. He's praying to the Emperor, and all of a sudden, this superhuman comes in and saves him. I'll say the Emperor protected right then. And this shot is so good! I love this. This is one of my favourite shots with one of my favourite line deliveries combined. We're focused on the Space Marine. He's standing there, just looming and looking out, and you see Reigns pop up, so small by comparison, in the corner. He's still kind of nothing next to this giant. And yet, the shot there is just so good. And this delivery of yes, he does. I love it's kind of slightly casual. There's a slight hint of humor in the voice. And the pause there. This line delivery is spectacular.
Yes. It does.
And the slight tilt of the head, too. Just this acknowledgement of what Reigns has just said. And I think there you see that respect that the Space Marine has formed for this lowly human. It's magnificent. And we hear the roaring of the Tyranids that have been attracted, presumably by the bolt gun fire, because you're going to hear that thing for a while. And then we cut. This shot here, we don't see either. We've gone back to that light and dark thing again. It's possible they don't make it out of this, because that was a lot of loud noise that is going to attract a lot of these critters to them. And so we still have that darkness there, but we also have the light, and the light is highlighting. It's so effective here. We see the outline of the Space Marine. You see the tip of the bolter. You see a little bit of the gauntlet here. You see the side of Reigns' face, the top of the las gun. Interestingly, Reigns does not go for the helmet. He just stands up and faces forward. But he's standing with confidence now, where previously, he was obviously feeling the leg injury a lot more. Now he stands with confidence. And we just see that with this beautiful top light that just catches everything so well. And the entire action of this short has happened in this circle of light on the floor, which, if you look at this guy and assume he's probably, average height of a dude right now, 5'9", that's probably 12 feet across. And they've done so very, very much with such a small amount of light throughout this entire thing. That's one of the things I think makes this such a masterpiece. It's absolutely wonderful. And then we get that crashing sound again. And I want to look at these credits as we go through, because everybody here deserves a mention. I forgive any mispronunciations. Bowman Modine and Richard Boylan involved in the story, but then written by Bowman. A lot goes into thinking about something that is less than 4 minutes long. And that story fits such a lot into such a small space. Serious kudos for that. These two right here. Eric Steffen's wonderful job playing the Guardsman. I think he's so convincing as that. You see so many emotions go through him through the length of the short. Terry Skriniar is inside the armor, but also built the armor. This is his suit. And so he deserves kudos on 100 different levels for this. It's just astonishing what they did with it. This is remarkable. Great work by both of you. And this is the first time I've actually caught this. Pete Beaumont, Space Marine voice. And I'm actually going to take a second at this point. I want to look up who Pete Beaumont is. And the reason I'm doing that is because of who the other voice on the radio is. Okay, so Pete Beaumont is actually a voiceover artist. He's done voice... he's actually just done he's done sound department for one. So he's actually only done a couple of things. Interesting. He was a narrator in a TV series. He's done this, and quite possibly off the back of this, he's a voice actor in a game called Chernobylite, which I also thoroughly enjoy. But the reason I was curious as to who he was is the name of the second voice actor who was on the radio, which is Graham McNeil. Graham McNeil is a writer for books and video games for Games Workshop. So the fact that he's lent his voice to this is awesome, because he's somebody who knows the lore, and so it's kind of cool that they got him involved. Directed by Richard. Richard did stunning job. Like, the direction on this was perfect. When you have something that is this short, every shot has to count, and I don't think there was a shot in this that didn't. And here, cinematographer Sarah Garth. You and Nasir Schreiner, both of you, that was stunning work. Jeremy and Lang, fantastic support. Everybody who's in something like this is important, and I try and credit people as often as I can, but this one stands out to me so much. And here we get, so there you go, Space Marine Imperial. Oh, so that's his guard. Oh, that may be the guard armor. That if I manage to get the picture up, that might be the same guard armor that's in that. I didn't check the numbers on it, but that's Terry's work. Art director, excellent work on the artwork that's here. Bowman was the second unit director as well. Very cool. Excellent makeup and special effects. Monique, spectacular work. Again, everything in this short looks so good. Sound, Chris Bush, not sure. Question mark as to whether that's music as well. We'll find out in a second. But the sound in this is outstanding. Production assistant Mark Mapes, intern Zachary Jones, set videographer Beck Skriniar. I don't know if that's Terry's wife, daughter, not sure. But that, I think, it comes into play with the behind the scenes that I sent, that I linked rather, down below, because there's obviously somebody filming behind the scenes, which I assume is therefore Beck. Oh, I'd never noticed that. I've looked at these credits before, but I hadn't actually clocked at any point. Hormagaunt model by Giulio Nicoletti. Fantastic work, Giulio, thank you. Or Julio. Edited by Stephen Boyer, again, fantastic. And sound mix, Nathaniel Smith. Animation by Maxwell Adams. Everybody here did such a great job. Like, there isn't a bad credit in this. Like, everyone has done such great work because, again, and also look at how many people it took to make 4 minutes of film. But it's 4 minutes of film that is outstanding. Okay, I'm assuming because we didn't see anyone else's name that sound meant sound and music. So yes, kudos there. Filmed at Electric Pony Studios, Los Angeles, and special thanks to a bunch of people. Phenomenal stuff. Is there anything else? No. And that's Guardsman. This is incredible stuff. I urge you to just enjoy, and if this is appealed to you, check out the other stuff that's in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, because it's a really cool universe. There's lots of good stuff there. Okay, I can see that Richard has also done Hell's Reach. I didn't realize that was him as well, which is a series set in the 40k universe that I know has had some attention. I actually haven't seen it yet. It's on my list of things that I want to see. But anyway, yeah, check out Richard's work. Check out Terry's work on social media. I know, besides the suits, actually, I'm low-key representing here. I've got my RX-78 Gundam t-shirt on, which was a very slight representation of the fact that Terry's listed on his social media that his 2024 suit is going to be Freedom Gundam, which, if this is anything to go by, is going to be outstandingly cool. This episode's sponsored by the word outstanding. But yeah, just check out these folks' work. And check out the universe that it's based in. Warhammer 40k is a really, really, really cool universe. But for the amount of content that Games Workshop has put out, they have missed significantly more often than they have hit. And every single person on this should have been hired by them on the spot to make footage, or to make media going forwards. Because this is superior, in my opinion, to anything they have ever put out outside of their books. Yeah. Anyway, that's that. I hope you enjoyed that. This was a really left field video for me. So please let me know your thoughts. I'd love to know if you'd like to see more of this kind of stuff in the future. I feel like I don't think my channel is suited to full-length films and things like that, but where we have these short videos, is this something you'd like to see more of? Doesn't have to be Warhammer 40k or anything like that, just in general. Let me know what you think. Please do like the video, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and if you'd care to, head over to either buymeacoffee.com/DavidKReacts or patreon.com/DavidKReacts, where you can donate to support the channel, or you could actually get a super thanks. I keep forgetting I've triggered that now on YouTube. I didn't realize it was a thing, but it is now. You can give me a super thanks, which is just a donation directly through YouTube, and it gives you a highlighted comment as well, which I will certainly get back to you about. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I was able to bring something to you, whether it was a new perspective on this short if you'd seen it before, or the short, or the Warhammer 40k universe, or any plethora of things. This is a very cool video. I have loved since I first saw it. I probably haven't seen it since 2020, actually, early 2020. And I'm glad I don't know why I thought to do something on it, but I was trying to think of cool things to do for this channel that were a little different to experiment with during 2024. And this popped into my head and I was like, well, that's the first one for sure. Thank you very much for watching, especially if you're still here at the end. Do take care of yourselves. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, I don't know, 6 p.m., whatever time it is whenever you're watching this. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.